welcome to Woven. Yes, I started it with gay dinosaurs, so there we go. We're so glad that you're all here today. John and I are going to talk about, honestly, it's going to just be a bunch of weird shit about celebrating, if we can, this holiday season or not. Next week, we will not be here. We will be having a little Christmas party at my house. So if you want to come see me, and I will give you my address because I'm not putting that on YouTube. And then the 29th, because people will still be gone, we're going to have a holiday movie before we kick off the new year with a lot of fun services that are coming our way. So we just want to say a very special welcome to all of you. Regardless of your race, your gender, your socioeconomic status, whether you like the Bible or not, whether you believe in God or not, you belong here just as you are. So welcome. Daniel's going to lead us in some Christmas songs.
Just one song, and I muted the wrong channel. I apologize if things are sounding a little wonky today. There has been some resets on the soundboard, so fun things. Fun little happy accidents that are not fully fun, or, yeah. Anyway, we will muddle through it somehow. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Let your heart be light. Next year all our troubles will be out of sight. So have yourself a merry little Christmas. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Make the Yuletide gay. Next year all our troubles will be miles away. Once again, as in olden days, happy golden days of yore. Faithful friends who are dear to us will be near to us once more. Someday soon we all will be together, if the fates allow. Until then we'll have to muddle through somehow. So have yourself a merry little Christmas now.
As John's getting ready, I'm just going to brag on Daniel for a minute because he has pushed us in art so much that now I've been to painting with a twist 4 times, and now I like regularly painting and I've become addicted to it. So thank you so much. Thank you for putting the fire in front of me so I can just knock it on the floor, no pressure. Yeah, that's exactly what I need.
I almost lit myself on fire this morning.
We've become a little fire hazard here. It's fine.
I had already kicked over the plastic. We have a plastic pitcher that we pour water into the fountain, and I'm walking up here to the pulpit. The kids are still singing, and I mean I hit it like with my foot. I kick it, and it was so much noise, and there was no water in it. It had already been poured, so I don't know if that's good or bad, but it made more noise. So I'm trying to recover from that when I hit a candle with my hand and catch the candle before it falls onto the pulpit and burns up the church, because that the people here frown on that, like when you burn up their church, they don't love that. So here we are.
Yeah.
It's your turn. You can.
I have nothing. I'm just now not wanting to do the same thing. So I'm just feeling the pressure.
This is
now.
this is a lot more. This is a bigger candle that you.
Yeah.
Yeah, more flame. So I just want to say first just how great it is to have Caleb here.
Yes. Yay.
So Caleb is one of the founders of the church here at Woven, and just so essential, important in our first years together. And we just celebrate you, and it's just so good to have you here. And so, of course, welcome to everyone that's here online or here in person. So we're going to talk today about celebrating Christmas. Like, should we? not about how so much as should we.
Or can we?
How do you do it?
Right.
And specifically this year with our political situation.
Right.
How do you celebrate in the middle of that? So this is this time of hope and love and joy and peace, right? And that's all the Christmas stuff. And everything changes in January.
It sure does. It sure does.
So how do we celebrate during this year? Can we do it?
Yeah, I think the piece that helps me say yes is a lot of times in the Gospels. Wow, I feel really churchy as I talk, and it just is giving me a hell of a lot of cringe.
Do you mean the Synoptic Gospels or all
I'm
of
not
it?
going there. Anyways, and yes, I do mean the Synoptic Gospels. But specifically, I'm thinking about in Matthew and Luke, verse 2, they talk about seeing an angel and seeing a star in the midst of all this darkness. And it is safe to say that the climate that Jesus is born into is less than ideal. It's pretty dark. It's fairly heavy.
And that's in a lot of ways. It's politically, for sure.
Right.
They're under complete oppression,
Yeah.
first by the Romans, but also by the local authorities, quasi-Jewish authorities headed by Herod.
Yeah.
This is Herod the Great at this point.
Yeah, it's this interesting time, right? And so there's always this kind of thing that they can kind of see, whether it be a star, whether it be this tiny moment where this baby's born, or as some people said, they saw an angel, whatever the fuck that means. We got to sort that out still. But there's something...
Or we may not.
Yeah, exactly. But there's something that puts, I think it's C.S. Lewis who coins this, if I'm wrong, please correct me, about having light in darkness so that the darkness can't overwhelm it. And it can just be this little tiny moment, right? Like, one of my favorite gifts I've ever received is like seeing stars in the constellation on a specific night and how much light that brings in a moment where, safe to say, things for a lot of people in that day weren't going very well. If you that specific day, if you're in Gaza, you're you don't have a home, you're buried under rubble, you're starving, you're looking for food, and you're continuing to be bombed, and there's not as many safe places for you. So this isn't uncommon. At least we think so. We have to hope that the record of this text, if we believe of the Bible to at least be a historical library, that seems to be how the case was. So I think where the question turns into now is, what is the right way to come into this season, knowing all of these things are coming, right?
Yeah. And just as a little bit more of the historical backdrop of that, in the time of Jesus, the people that had owned land had to pay severe taxes on it, and so much the taxes were so much that the people that had given them the loans to pay the taxes eventually they had to sell their property too. So a whole group of, in essence, landowners had become now servants of conglomerates. And they'd gone from subsistence farmers to farming single crops that they would export. So now they don't even have food that they can grow for themselves. So economically, they were in this dire place. Meanwhile, politically, they have their in subservience, and then in this you have Mary and Joseph coming into what is this violence of Herod with the killing the babies, the young children, and there's a lot of that rings true to Gaza, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not far from Gaza where this happened. Right. Bethlehem is not far from Gaza. And then they travel through Gaza to get to Egypt. That's the only way to get there. Yep. And so I think it's really interesting that how close that is to that political situation.
Yeah, and I think Walter Brueggenheim, I think all of that happened over land dispute too. Mm-hmm. I think there was land dispute in that, just like there is today. So how scary of a parallel that not much has changed from this historical time to the current for those people. And I think the challenge here is, right, like, it's very easy for us to shut off our brains, focus on, the bombasticness that is the holiday season, more than just Christmas. I mean, it's a full holiday season. And to a degree, and so we have to talk about this with a great deal of nuance, right? That's okay. Because there is a point in our lives where we have to shut off and recharge. And there's also a point where we have to be fully engaged. And we have to recognize also the privilege with that whole statement I just said. All of those things at once have to be in there.
Yeah, so can you, or how are you going to do that? How are you going to be, you feel so deeply with Gaza. That's just
for sure.
Really a deep part of you.
Yeah, I unregistered as a Democrat. I'll just say that out loud. Like, I feel no shame in that. Like, I unregistered. Yeah. Like, that was just a huge stain.
A huge stain, absolutely.
That really was such a bad call to pretend like we care about human life, and we continue to fund and literally kill people.
Yep.
So, and it was racism too. So there's that.
How do you think Mary and Joseph did? In the middle of what they had. Did they celebrate Christmas?
There's no way. There's no way. They were just trying to get to the next safe place. Sincerely.
Yeah.
There's no way they were. Could you imagine being pregnant, like traveling, trying to find a place like, as someone who's never going to be pregnant, like, I think about it now because my sister-in-law is pregnant, and like, she's not allowed to travel more than an hour away for the last 90 days of her pregnancy. So like, can you imagine just having to, like
Yep.
even medically, like it being unsafe, like that's kind of the situation they're in.
So I want to show you something.
Oh boy.
So 3 days ago, a friend of mine and I walked on a hike for, this will sound so pathetic to most of you, but for 5.5 miles. I can hardly walk. And I'm just thinking walking 50 miles from Nazareth to Bethlehem,
Mm-hmm.
being pregnant. And I suspect that that's worse. I'm just guessing. But yeah, no, I was just going with you on your
Yeah.
on your
I mean,
your trek there.
it's how do you? I can't even fathom the situation, and yet they did it.
Yeah, that's right.
They did it.
Yeah, and I mean, there was a time, right, when everybody did what they needed to do.
Right.
You know, some of us are old enough to know those times when there weren't other possibilities. You did what you had to do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, shoot, Ryan, I was just thinking of you in the military. I mean, there had to be times where it didn't make sense what you were asked to do. And you just do it anyway. You figure out how to do it and get through. So here, Mary and Joseph,
Yeah.
they have a baby. And they've got to somehow, I mean, like they probably don't have a midwife.
Yeah.
It's probably Joseph. And somehow they figure out how to do this with a baby.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting, right? Because there is something about a moment in time that can, despite everything else around you being so hard and so painful, that can bring such relief. Giving birth is probably one of those things.
Yeah, that's right.
And
Speaking as one who is obviously very aware of what
Yeah,
it
no, we
means
have
to give
no
birth
idea.
to a child.
We have no idea. I'm basing this on what my mother told me is that she was screaming very loudly about whenever she was giving birth to both my brother and I, like, "Get out, you little shit." So I'm speaking from that story, just so you know whenever I say that, because that is what she said when it was like, it was time. She was screaming, "Get out, you little shit." So that is my birth story, not Jesus's. So we have no idea what Mary said, but that is what happened when I was being born.
So I'm going to ask the three mothers that are here today to come up and tell your own stories about childbirth.
Yeah, no, they don't want to really. Yeah.
Yeah, the perpetrator. I stayed this healthy distance away from Tawana when she was giving birth. Like,
Yeah.
"Hey, hon, you're doing great."
Yeah, that makes total sense. But there is something, you know, about this.
Seriously. She's giving birth. I mean, she's not at the moment, but she's close.
Yeah.
And I'm like trying to be as comforting as I can, close to her without being in arm shot, like where she could slug me. And so I have my foot on the bottom of the bed, right? And I mean, I'm feet away from where she is actually. And she looks down at me. "Get your fucking hand off my bed." "Yes, dear." Sorry, I still didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that was really great.
Honey, if you're watching this, I'm sorry to let that out of the bag. No, I did not make that up. Well, I might have made up part of it, but not much.
Maybe the F-bomb.
Maybe, yeah. Yeah.
But there
She uses it freely now, but back
Yeah.
then, not so much.
Yeah. But there is something about a moment in time that really can change something in you. And like I think the thing that I'm learning this season right, is this is my opportunity to not deconstruct my faith. I've already done that, but to actually allow myself to feel it all about God and everything and about all of the shit that was just indoctrinated on me. Because I skipped the mad part, right? And there's a part about...
I never had the bad part, by the way, either.
Yeah, and so there's this great part of this where it's like, I went from, I don't think so, to fuck off, God. And that's like, those were the steps, right? And then I started working here. I don't know how all that happened in between, but anyways, that's part of my ministry.
But isn't this beautiful? I mean,
Yeah.
now you're asking, how does the story of Jesus' birth
Right.
change how I see everything?
Right. And
That's a beautiful story.
yeah, and what I love about it is it's what Brene Brown calls microdosing hope. You're looking at one specific moment. Because I don't have any big hope right now, right? Like, I've had to make huge decisions in my life that honestly I wasn't ready to make because of who's going to be president and how that's going to best benefit my life to where I can feel as safe and as secure as I know how to. But I can take this moment in this story and I can microdose on hope and I can focus on the one thing, whether it be the star, the angel, the birth scene, whatever. And it gives us an invitation to activism. It allows me to be active in my views of God or lack thereof views of God. It gives me activism to be ready for what's going to come in January because there's going to be a lot of fights that we have to fight. And microdosing hope is all I've got because big hopes aren't there. I'm not expecting to see big change in a positive direction. But if I can microdose, if I can lean in, then I can do something for my neighbor that I was maybe incapable of doing 6 months ago.
Yeah, so this morning in Beaumont, our theme was do the good that's in front of you to do.
Yeah.
And so that's microdosing hope.
Absolutely.
It's, I can't fix the system.
No.
I voted and I tried.
Right.
And that's not where we are. So I can't fix the big picture right now.
Right.
I can love the person in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
That's the microdose of hope.
Yeah, and like sometimes loving the person in front of you is feeling all of it. And that includes anger, that includes rage, that includes all of it. Because if you rob yourself of any kind of feeling, you're not actually doing anything. You're ignoring something. And it will come in, it will fester itself, and it will eat you alive, and you're not going to be much good to anyone, let alone yourself. And that's the challenging part, and that's the invitation here, right? Like we just described, the political system was shit in this historical period of time. And here's the thing, right? Like Jesus is a baby. It's not like he knew what the fuck he was doing. He was a baby. He didn't know he was going to die at age 30 and how he was going to do it and how all the things are going to play out. He was a baby. He came in because that's like what Richard Rohr says. Christ is reality with a face.
And there was the face.
Yes, and then there was the face.
I mean, we talk about God with a face.
Yes.
But Jesus actually gave us the face.
Yeah. And I think part of that has to happen because, like, that's the only way we can get our minds around it. And think about the goodness.
I think that's
in
absolutely
that.
true.
And
I think that's the whole point of the incarnation.
Yeah, think about the goodness in that, right? Is because we can't get our minds around reality without a face. And so God is reality, and we have to put a face on it so that we can get our mind around it. And that's how this thing works. It's the same way with Holy Spirit too, right? Like we have to call to Spirit. We have to put a face on it so we can get our minds around it because it's so much bigger than that.
Yeah, so most of us talk about the Holy Spirit in female terms because that's part of the face that we need.
Right, because of the comfort piece. And that's really challenging. But isn't it great to know? Because there's really terrible things going on right now. And part of the challenging piece of when you start talking about hope, joy, love, and you see people buried under rubble, that the real comfort I have in it is that God being in reality, it really messes up him being all powerful, because I can't reckon that with what's my lived experience of what's happening to people in the world that I truly, truly believe God cares about, right? So there's that tension. But what I can believe is, in reality, God being there with them as they're finding their next home, as they're in that journey, as they're with them. And in this situation, I do think the Christmas story offers us a lot of hope for what is a lot of people's lived experiences right now.
So in most of church history, what the church has cared about is God's omnipotence, his all-powerfulness.
Yeah.
And what we believe is that where we want to be from now isn't about his omnipotence, but about his omnipresence. That in the rubble, God didn't prevent it, but that God chose to be in the rubble.
Right. And that
presence is so much better than the power.
And that's microdosing hope.
That's
because
microdosing.
That's
right.
what all people have.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. For a lot of those people, the next right thing is hard as fuck, but they're going to keep going anyways. And I think, to your point, that's how Mary and Joseph made it. And here's the thing, right? Like, we're talking about in extremes, but for us too, we all have our versions of our rubble, right?
Right.
And we've got to find our microdosing of hope and do that next right thing for us and the people we care about, so that we can keep moving forward. And the comforting piece of that is recognizing that there's a universal aspect to God that we underestimate that helps him be with us.
So if you've looked at our website in the last couple days, you'll see.
Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you. It says, it's from our mission statement, our non-missional mission statement, believing that all people are beloved, affirmed, and woven together at the table with Christ. But if you look at our website, now at the beginning it says, at the table with the universal Christ. And so that's where you're headed, this idea of the universal Christ.
Yeah, because if God's in reality, like, we need to lay down our narcissistic views about God being all about belief-centric
Yeah,
first.
and the sectarian part of it.
Yep. Yes, and God, being in reality, loves people of different faith religions just as much as he loves the people within.
Right.
In fact, maybe we should reckon with the fact that maybe they're more in than we are, and we should be gaining more from them than what we're gaining from our own experience right now.
That's right.
I'm so sorry for breaking a heresy meter, but it's fundamentally
that's
what I believe.
That's actually Jesus.
Yeah.
He says, blessed are you who mourn. Blessed are the poor. Those are the people that Jesus is all in with.
Right. It was never about what they believed or what they practiced.
No, that's right.
It was never about that.
That's right.
It was about who they were as people. And why would, if God is love, right? Go on this hypothetical. Of course, I think that because I have to. But if God is love, why would he just leave whole people groups and make them all think a certain way, and we have to translate a Bible a certain way, and we have to hand it to them, we have to present it to them a certain way? That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's just in it with them.
That's right.
Regardless of what name they use.
That's right.
Does Jesus need to be called Jesus?
No.
He's bigger than that.
Jesus is not still a 2-year-old.
Right.
He was at one point. But he's not the narcissistic, what do you call that, when you're entitled, 2-year-old who has to have it all be about him.
Right.
What kind of God is that?
Yeah, it's a thing, right? Like we've had to redefine the word worship in these past several years, and I think as a collective we have been, right, because what's beautiful and what Richard Rohr talks about when he's talking about reality being God with the face is the only way we can really get there and not treat God as a 2-year-old is we have to have an inner life. And really that's what worship is about. It's not about this big thing where like God needs to hear this noise to feel good about himself and pat himself on the back. It's not that.
How childish is that?
Right.
I just think that's
Instead, it's an inner life between a person to where that they can go exactly where you are. There's no prerequisite. You don't have to be anywhere. You can say, fuck you, and he's with you anyways.
That's right.
And that's your lived reality. Yeah. And for those people who are in the place where they're here, where all they've got is fuck you to God, he loves you just the same as the people who have a deep personal inner life and communication. It doesn't change.
That's right.
Just because of where you are. It's because he's with you because he's in reality. And he's in your reality, right? Which means as we change and evolve, reality of God changes and evolves too, because guess what? We're changing and evolving, and God's in it.
There's, for a lot of people, the most romantic thing that they can do, and this is same sex, different sex, is the dance. Yeah. Is the slow dance usually. Can be this really beautiful romantic moment. And one of the things that Rohr talks about, and a lot of theologians that are in this vein talk about the holy dance of the Trinity. And the Greek word they use is parachoresis. And it's this holy dance that they're dancing together. And then what they do is they invite us into the dance. We actually get to do this dance with the Trinity. Mm-hmm. And it's this intimate, kind of beautiful dance that we get to do with them. And that's the universal Christ.
Right. Right. And you know the other beautiful part about this that we don't talk about a lot is if God is reality with the face, then they don't care if you're blaming them. Right? That's so
right.
different than how we operate
exactly
as people.
Right. Yes.
Because as people, we really care when people blame us for something.
Yes.
Like, we deeply care.
I do.
I do, too.
In my best moments, I don't.
Yes.
But I don't have many best moments.
I mean, in my ideal, I don't want to care, and you try really hard sometimes, and then sometimes you just feel it. But isn't that the nice part is, while we're in this process with God, where he's just universally with us, even when we're blaming, even when we're hurting, even when our reality is not setting in about him. Like, you know, it's interesting, right? Because I probably lived in this place of I've lived in this place for the last 4 years of it's really hard to call myself a Christian because nationalism has hijacked it.
Yeah. Which is such a valid point.
Right. And so, like, I can't call myself a Christian. There's too much connotation with that. So I call myself some sort of spiritual mystic, like, as if that's doing me any good. But, I mean, I'm trying. I'm so sorry, because I really love the people in this community, but I hate church as a concept. Like, it's just really hard. And, like, the fact that I'm even doing this and the fact that I show up is pretty damn good.
This is your pastor here. Just wait.
Oh, God. Director. Title is director, not pastor. Title is director. But it's so hard.
In my heart,
I know. In your heart, that was your intention. I do speak at Beaumont, though, so that's kind of awkward.
No, I know it.
But
psych.
Yeah. It's a very hard thing to reckon with, and you know, God's okay with that. God's okay with that place. Wow, that was terrifying. I just tipped that and it scared the shit out of me. But I'm learning that part of real healing, and I hate that word, but part of real healing for me is being okay with raging at it and sitting in it anyways.
right, yeah.
Because that's my next right thing.
If there's a beautiful part of the Psalms,
Yeah.
it's that David especially rails against God,
Yeah.
and it's okay.
Yeah.
You know, that is given for us in Scripture.
Mm-hmm.
I used to hate that, and I love that's there.
Yeah. Because it's hard, right? Like, I lost so much opportunity as a queer person because of this. Like, I went all in. I made horrible decisions that caused damage to me and other people around me because I picked this. And it's still hard to, although so much of that's in the rearview mirror, the reckoning part is, how do I keep doing this thing? Why do I keep coming to this thing? Like, I robbed myself of so much opportunity. Here's the thing. On my queer life, I'm on the other side, right? Like, I mean, I really have a really good queer life right now, but it's still hard because it's this thing of like, how do I live that life and how do I do it here? Because what we're doing here isn't really accepted. We really still are the exception, not the norm. As much as Christian nationalists would like to say that this is the new trendy thing, like, no, it's not. Like, shut up. Like, you guys have, like, induced power into a structure literally through Billy Graham since like starting in the 1950s, and have been slow burning this thing to where now all of a sudden, despite Jesus being completely anti-war, we're now pro-war. Like, what you're doing is still popular. Like, it's still happening. Like, I just had to, because the current president is a Catholic, thought it was the right thing to bomb the shit out of Gaza. So we have to reckon with those things. It's hard to do, especially when you see literally evil policy like that.
I do want to say, I think that your empathy, and I know several of you are really invested in Gaza, that your empathy for that people, the Palestinians, is such a godlike quality.
Wow.
Like that in the middle of your life actually being pretty good.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You know, everybody really in this room, in the big scope of things, has a pretty good life. None of us are hungry. All of us have shelter. Most of us even have more than one pair of clothes.
Yeah.
I'm just guessing here, but I'm thinking.
Andrew bought me this sweater from England, so it's got shipped
You
here.
know,
How cool is that? And I have on Mean Girls Crocs.
To be in.
Just saying. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Caleb.
That in the middle of our just beautiful lives,
Mm-hmm.
that you can hold so deeply empathy for people that are hurting.
Yeah.
God is perfect and chose to have empathy with us in our pain.
Mm-hmm.
What you're doing is godlike. That's what God does, is God steps out of the perichoresis, out of this holy, most beautiful moment, time, where everything is perfect for them, and chooses empathy with hurting,
Right.
dying people. Instead of zapping and fixing it,
Right.
chooses living in the pain. That's crazy.
And what I'm learning is, if I'm going to reclaim the word Christian, then it has to be through empathy
Yes.
and activism for the things that I truly believe are important. I do believe that we need to take care of our planet. I don't believe in a new earth. I believe God cares about this earth.
This earth, that's right.
I do think that that means that people that are marginalized and have been put on the outskirts for years, it's time that we don't just give them a seat at the table, but we let them speak, and we give them higher authority than we've ever given.
So I've never said this to anybody because I just now thought of it.
Okay. That's always scary.
So here's the half-baked idea. You know, when Jesus came, he was not accepted by the religious authorities.
Right.
Because he looked different than what the scriptures said he would be.
Mm.
So in retrospect, we say, yeah, but Isaiah says this, you know, and we have our few 3 passages that say that the Messiah was going to be suffering. All of the rest of the passages, which is the great majority, say that he's going to come back and rule with an iron fist in a political way. The religious leaders weren't crazy. They were just reading the scriptures for what they said.
Yeah.
Jesus and John the Baptist and the disciples, they were the ones that were out. They were, their heresy meter was like this, pinned all the time. Because they were outside of what the religious tradition actually taught. So here's the thought. What if we've misunderstood the second coming?
Please.
What if when Jesus talks about the kingdom of heaven on earth, what if he actually meant that? And that we are supposed to have moved from a place of God imposing his will to a place where God is in people loving. What if that's the change that Jesus brought and that we're supposed to be fulfilling? What if this is the one and only earth?
What if?
And we better get our shit together to not let this world, this planet, die. Maybe, I'm not saying this is the truth, but I'm saying it makes sense that if they missed it all by reading the scriptures pretty literally, maybe we have missed something really important that Jesus was about by claiming certain literalisms when all along Jesus is saying, the kingdom of heaven is near. The kingdom of heaven is among you. What if that is Christmas?
Yeah.
Is the kingdom of heaven is arrived?
Yeah. Well, and the beauty in that too is, right, when it came to second coming, everyone thought it was in their lifetime.
Yeah.
Everyone thought it.
Including Jesus, John the Baptist, and Paul.
Right.
So there's that.
Right. And so it's very obvious that we've missed something somewhere. And there's like so much that we could unpack with that between translations and all that. That's a whole fun
We
thing.
won't be doing that in Morning Beaumont.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Although we did in Sunday school today, we did kind of go there.
We did go to some of there.
Yeah,
Right.
we really did.
Yeah. But if we can't examine the scriptures for what they really are,
Right.
you know, and Paul changed his mind.
Yeah.
So 1 Thessalonians is the first book, probably the first book of the New Testament written. And it was Paul's first book. And he's all about the second coming. And by the end, his later books, especially Romans, he's not talking about that anymore because it hasn't happened.
Right.
Now it's 20 or 30 years later, and he's like, okay, so, you know, let's look at this another way. And so maybe we're supposed to be doing that too.
Yeah. And I think, too, when you talk about microdosing, right, maybe you find the hope in the thing you read, and no one else is going to read it that way. And it's still your hope. And God being in reality is in that hope. So whether it's in the Christmas story, Naughty Torres wrote an article to where she found hope in the book of Revelation. Good for her.
Yeah, good.
And
you go, girl.
yeah, and that got her out of despair. And wow, that is really incredible.
Yeah.
But whatever it is for you, that's really the invitation here. Because it will give us, microdosing hope can really move us into our next right thing. It'll help us activate what's important. And we're going to grow and learn along the way, and we're going to make a crap ton of mistakes, and I'm probably going to say something stupid every hour, which is why I have the rule of I can change my opinion in an hour because someone will convince me I'm wrong about something.
Yeah,
And that's
a great
thing.
rule.
Yeah, I just have a rule. I'll change my opinion in an hour because sometimes I don't have all the information. But there's the universal Christ in all of that, and that's the beauty.
And what if the goodness of God we have misdefined?
Mm-hmm.
We've often talked about the goodness of God as, not us, but the church in general, it's talked about the goodness of God as the power to change things. What if the goodness of God is the empathy to be with people in the midst of hard?
Yep.
And so we're going to come and take these things, which are the symbol of empathy. This is the symbol of Christ saying, I will be with you in death. I will be with you in life. I choose empathy with you instead of solving it.
Yeah.
And so even now, as you want, come and take something. And today we're going to you take it at your will.
Yeah.
Take it when you get it, take it back at your seat as we ingest the empathy of God. Holy Spirit, thank you. Thank you for being good, for being empathy in Jesus personified. For always being with us, for choosing to never leave us when we're complainers, for choosing to never leave us when we gripe or when we lash out against you, for choosing to not leave us when we pick a way other than love. seems to me the very definition of love. So here we are at Christmas time when you pick the empathy of becoming a person, becoming like us, so that we would have reality with a face. Thank you for Christmas. Thank you for loving us like you do. And now thank you for this time and these ones here. In precious Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's so good, Jarrett, to have you here with us too. Thanks, everyone. And next week, don't come here. Go to Logan's house. Party at Logan and Andrew's house. So go there and be there at 3:30 or ish. Whenever you want, actually. Thanks, everyone. See you next week. Oh, wait. Announcement. Sorry.
So today at 6 o'clock at the Lyric Theater, they're going to have a reading of works from Bell Hooks. She is a renowned black queer author from Kentucky. She's written poetry, fiction, taught at Berea. So it's free, open to the public. So I would encourage everyone, Lyric Theater, 6 o'clock.
Another announcement, surprise. There is a bake sale and vendor market going on in the fellowship hall. On the way in, you might have seen some things. Feel free to check that out. All proceeds from the bake sale will go towards the music program at Beaumont. So hiring musicians to come in and play really, really awesome music. That's kind of the expenses that the proceeds will cover. And then the vendors are all of the vendors, or most of the vendors that are connected to the Beaumont family. So shop local, great place and time to get some last minute Christmas presents if you need them. So yeah. Yeah, that too.
Yeah, Daniel's stuff is there. And really, the art in that stuff, I mean, it's just go see some of these vendors. It's really phenomenal stuff there. So thanks, everyone.